Hey everybody, Karen from Ask the Spirit Guides. How you doing today? I know, I know. Right? Our spirit guides, the lead team collective keeps telling us to remain calm. Okay, just remain calm. All right? We got to try really, really hard not to lose our spiritual perspective. Okay, that's the key. Spiritual perspective. Okay, and we're going to talk about that. So Lucy's here today. We'll see how long she sticks around. So yeah, I've watched a number of things today before hopping on here to talk to you guys. And I do have a message from the lead team collective using the pendulum today, kind of a conversation I had with them. There's really nothing new, to be honest. But, they'll give us, actually one thing is kind of interesting that they said that I found interesting. And then they also wanted me to pull a card from the Enchanted Path Oracle. There she goes. The Enchanted Path Oracle for an additional message, okay, about what's going on, okay? Because here's the thing. Being that I've been very consciously on a spiritual journey this year, as we are talking about things in the community, my reaction to what's going on with Iran and Israel was probably very different than it would have been a year ago from now for me. I can't help at this point, since I have been really working with my spirit guides and talking to you guys and hearing all of your spiritual perspectives on the world and how you're working with your spiritual journey and all that kind of stuff, is to not, I can't help but immediately go to the spiritual perspective on what's going on. Okay, so if we look at the big picture, which is always better to do than stay in the weeds, because if you stay in the weeds, it can drive you a little nuts, right? It drives me nuts when I just think about, the red buffoon or the orange buffoon, the orange buffoon. When I just stay there in that energy, it can really just make me extremely upset, very mad, right? I just get, it's just intolerable when you stay in the weeds with that stuff. So I continue to go while, yes, absolutely sending love and prayers and energy to anyone being hurt in this situation. Looking at it from a bigger perspective, I think, is helpful. Okay, so we're going to do that. But let's look at, I'm just going to tell you a few things that I heard today from listening to folks regarding this situation. Okay, then we'll look at the wider spiritual perspective. So a couple of things I thought was interesting, and I did post this in the post area of our channel this morning, is, do you guys remember when George Bush the second, George W., he was in a classroom when 9/11 happened, and they came over and they whispered in his ear, and he just kind of went like that. Well, the same thing happened yesterday when Bernie Sanders, when it was in Oklahoma, Tulsa. Someone came over to him to tell him of what Trump just did. Okay. And so then he was able to talk to the crowd about it. And the entire crowd started chanting, "No more war." It was amazing. So the one thing, and I might even use this in the subject title, I'm not sure yet, of this video, but Bernie said, despair is not an option. Despair is not an option. And I kind of really like that. I like the terminology of not an option, because it's just very clear. We are not in a place, and I kind of feel that way within this community. Despair is not an option. We are on a spiritual journey. We now understand, if you've been in this community for a while, or you've been watching other spiritual channels that are similar to mine, maybe more left-leaning, or it doesn't even matter left or right, it just doesn't matter, but that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience, and that there's karma being worked out in the world, right? We know that. We know there's karma being worked out in the world. We know that if you read The Golden Future and you buy into it, if it's something that's comfortable for you to believe that we are moving, and it's not, oh, you must believe this. It's whether or not you feel comfortable believing that. I think it's a great, it's not going to harm me to believe we're moving into the golden future. I just love it so much. And so if you haven't read the book, I'd highly recommend it. We did read it in the Spirit Circle, which is the membership for the channel. And it's in there always if you want to get the book and go through the discussions with me on video. That's always going to be in the Spirit Circle. And I did just watch Dianna Cooper do an interview. I can't remember the name of the channel. You guys probably watch this channel, maybe not, but I'll post it below, okay, in the description. I'll have the link to the videos that I mentioned here. The one with Bernie, the Dianna Cooper, you guys have to listen to it. It's amazing. She just is still, like, it was just really helpful to hear her talk, like, in the last couple of weeks about the golden future. So it was really, really cool. So, but she did reiterate in that interview, I was listening to it last night as I was making my homemade yogurt. Did you guys hear me talk about the yogurt? Okay, I've had it 3 days now, so I'll let you know if my strength improves and my empathy improves. I'll be able to tell. Actually, I kind of think like I was pretty chill about this whole Iran thing. And not yes, disturbed, of course disturbed, but really trying, just understanding it from a deeper perspective. And it might have been because I just listened to Dianna Cooper last night while I was making my yogurt. So anyways, yeah, I was talking about the yogurt thing for like 5 minutes before the George Washington video. If you haven't caught, I know it's like people are like, why would I want to listen to George Washington right now when there's all these things going on? The nice thing about getting that, that listening to things that are not just about today is actually really good with perspective. Okay, so George, we tapped into his higher self using the dowsing rods. And I will post that video here at the end of this video. There's two, actually. There's a George Washington with the dowsing rods, and then he gave us a pendulum message. I'll post that right there. Anyways, those kind of things give us much more perspective, right? And so if you find yourself getting caught in the weeds, try to back away from today's things that are going on and watch either things from my channel that are, that are not just about today's players, but maybe go and listen to the Martin Luther King Jr. conversation I had with him. I think it was it was during that. So Martin Luther King Jr., we did that one live. So I don't know how good the video was because we were having problems with being live at the time, but we did it with the dowsing rods and we did it on the day of the inauguration. We did it so that people had something else to watch besides the inauguration. So that was cool. Anyway, so you can go to the Ask the Spirit Guides playlist. It's called Ask the Spirit Guides. And because we're asking the Spirit Guides, basically, using the dowsing rods. And you can listen to all those kind of things. So if you find yourself getting into the weeds and need a little bit perspective, I think that's really helpful. So anyways, so yeah, definitely not a time to despair. The other really helpful, there's two other things I was listening to. I was listening to Mary Trump and E. Jean Carroll. Okay, so E. Jean Carroll is the woman who was RAPE by Trump, and not allegedly. It's not alleged. He was found guilty of that. He was found liable of that. So owes her $100 million. And I was listening to the two. I've never actually listened to her before. I am extremely intrigued by both women, how strong a women they are. And they were talking about how there's so many women in this country who own a lot of money and that we need to have a women's movement. And it was a really cool divine feminine conversation, the rise of divine feminine. So I will link that below. I'd highly encourage you to listen to it. I mean, E. Jean Carroll has like 4,000 subscribers. I don't think she's 80 years old. I mean, That doesn't mean she can't, she's not interested in doing a YouTube channel, but I don't know. She has Substack and stuff, so I don't know that that's her focus. But if you want to feel the courage of feminism and just the divine feminine, definitely listen to those two. And actually, E. Jean just came out with a book about her whole, about the whole situation. But it sounds really good. I am going to use it so in the Spirit Circle, we're going to be picking a new book soon. We're almost done with Let Your Spirit Guide Speak. And we're going to be picking a new book soon. We only have a couple more chapters. And so I'm going to put a call out with like 4 different options. I think I'm going to add E. Jean's book on there. I don't know if the Spirit Circle will have an interest in it, but it might give us some, it's not really a spiritual book, but it might give us some perspective. So maybe I won't. I don't know. I'll put it on there and see if people are interested. I'll probably just read it anyways. Maybe we could do a public channel reading of hers. One, I'd like to support her book. So maybe we could do a public channel. I'll have to think about that. I have to think about it. I can't make any commitments. Sometimes I jump into things too quickly. Okay, so definitely listen to that. It was really fun to listen to them talk about just the ridiculousness of F-45. And basically, any money she gets from him, she is going to take that money and donate it to organizations that Trump hates. All of it. So, love it. Anyways, and the last thing I was listening to Paul Warburg, W-A-R-B-U-R-G. I'll list everything. Anytime I talked about other channels, I always put them in the description below, okay? But he's a geopolitical analyst. And so I really do like listening to that because, first of all, he's just matter of fact. He's just telling you what's going on from all different perspectives. So I think that's really cool. I love the fact that he actually Ground News is a sponsor of his, and you guys know I'm a fan of Ground News as well. So he does sell, he's an affiliate for Ground News as well. And the reason I like Ground News, and if you want to, you can use his affiliate link or our affiliate link. Of course, use ours. Hello. But the reason I like that he likes it is because it confirms to me as a geopolitical analyst that that's the resource he uses. And I really appreciate that. So if you haven't heard of Ground News, it isn't linked in our description below, but you get 40% off of the subscription using the affiliate link, which is amazing. But what I like about it so much, and he does too, he explains this, is because you can see both sides of the story and you get a centered. Okay, so if you're wondering, like last night, I got an alert that Trump, bombed Iran. So then from Ground News, so you can get an alert, and they give me like one alert a day. It's not like they don't bombard me with stuff. It's just, I think you can pick which alert you want. And then you can go into the article and see what is the left saying about it, what is the right saying about it, and what is the center saying about it. And then you can get high factuality articles. And then they actually show you articles that are low factuality. So I don't click on those. You know what I mean? So it's really, really helpful. And I do like the fact that Paul is using that too. But anyway, so Paul talked about, well, actually, the information, this whole thing with Iran having nuclear capabilities. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I'll list his, there's so many things to link below, but Kyle from Secular Talk, he actually did a really great video the other day showing how for the last 30 years, the same from the Republican Party, actually, I think some Democrats too, have been using the same language for 30 years. Iran is days away from a nuclear weapon. And then like 5 years later, Iran is days away from a nuclear weapon. 5 years later, Iran is, they've been doing the same thing for 30 years. So it's totally ridiculous. And the fact that Tulsi Gabbard she testified again in front of Congress saying that they don't have evidence. And then Trump comes out and says that she's wrong. She's just wrong. So it's like, what's going on here? Like I said to my husband last night, I was like, what do they have? What does Iran have that Trump and Netanyahu want? What do they have? They have to have something because, it's Trump. This isn't, this, although the SGs do give us a little bit of a hint of really what it is about Trump. Which, at this point is probably not surprising to anybody. You know what I mean? So anyway, so Paul does say that once again, they did say days away from a nuclear weapon. Okay. He did not have the authority. You guys, you do. I mean, I think if you don't know, Congress is the only, according to the Constitution, only Congress can declare war. Well, the Republicans, which I don't know who it was. I don't think it was Paul. Maybe it was Paul, that they're not really Republicans, they're nationalists. So that is not a Republican party anymore. They're called nationalists. Okay. So we shouldn't even call them Republicans anymore. So the Nationalist Party that we have, so we have the Democrats and the Nationalists. Okay. That Trump apparently got there. He talked to them, but he didn't talk to the Democrats. So this is full out authoritarianism. I mean, it's just full out at this point, I mean, this isn't allegedly, this is factual. Okay. So basically, yeah, so they did say days away from a nuclear weapon again. Israel forced. So this is what Paul's saying, Warburg, the geopoliticist. He said, Israel forced our hand because they don't have the capability. So they did some BOMB, right? I don't know how much, people wonder about YouTube censoring, but then you get, the progressive news and they're using all the language. So I don't know. But because Israel did some of the BOMBing already, that Paul was saying that they kind of forced Trump into doing this just because they did that, they didn't actually make any difference because it was the bunker bombs or what do they call those? The bunker busters. That's the one that we dropped. We were the only ones that had the capability to actually get down into the mountains, where they had their stuff being built or whatever. So that might have been, again, that's part of the story, is that Israel forced his hand. Okay. Let's see. Nuclear weapons were oh yeah. So, how nuclear weapons were the reason that Bush went into Iraq. And then there was, remember the whole weapons of mass destruction, and then there was nothing. Same kind of thing, right? Kyle definitely said that last week, he said that he had heard through some reputable sources, I don't know what his sources are, that this would actually take place over the weekend because of the markets. So let's just see what happens to the markets tomorrow. That'll be interesting. Well, not interesting, but you know what I mean. So yeah, he basically went against his Tulsi Gabbard, he is supposed to be listening to her, right? Surprise, surprise. Apparently only 16% of Trump supporters supported this. So this very well could be, now we might have a collective voice. This very well could be the thing that brings us all together. We'll see, right? Paul did say, what's next? He said, World War III, not likely. So I wanted to make sure you heard that. World War III, not likely. Okay. Regional war, not likely. Doesn't say that's not going to happen, but he said not likely. He said the military capabilities don't exist for any of that to happen. Okay. And then, the question is Congress's role. It's like, what? Huh? What happened? I mean, so he's this is all unconstitutional, which is amazing that most of his supporters are all about the Constitution, Second Amendment, free speech, but not only when it's convenient for them, apparently. So if they don't stand up at this point, then we know that his supporters are not for the Constitution as well, because we've been standing up saying that all along, haven't we? Okay, so yeah, so this very well could be, the tipping point. I think when I read last week, I read the astrology report, and Faye had told us that between last week when I was reading that, actually it was like the 9th of June to the 25th was going to be quite explosive, okay? When we read that was actually, did I read the report before what happened in Minnesota? Yes, I did. It was 2 days or so before what happened in Minnesota and then all of the No King protests. So that was a pretty intense weekend. But that it was going to be through the 25th, okay? So really, really helpful report from Faye. So, that's astrology, by the way. And all of the things that the SGs of the Lead Team Collective has been telling us for many, many weeks, actually a couple months, just kind of preparing us. I'll just read a few things. Widen your perspective. Hold on tight was a political message. Be ready to breathe was a political message more recently. Trump leaving forever. Why do you want us to know that? They want us to be prepared. That was in the beginning of this month. They have said 3 times, losing his mind. 3 times. 2 already, and today that was the first message they gave me. I'll show you the rest of it. So on the 5th, the political message was losing his mind. That had to do with the LA stuff, okay? You see how everything is just, I don't think I think there was a part of me that thought, well, first of all, I thought they could be lying about this because they could be. I mean, all those videos and stuff, they could be all AI generated. We don't know. And I'm just speculating. I mean, they could be. We don't know. And 2, this is like, I don't know if I just thought this myself or I heard somebody say this, that because he's losing, especially with the protests and things that, a lot of the lawsuits are not going his way, that this was like he just needed to show he needed to show he can do this kind of thing. You know what I mean? So 3 times they said losing his mind. The second time losing his mind, well, the first time they said to us, raise your vibration. Okay, so keeping our vibration high. That's the goal for us. Okay, that's how we're getting to the 5D. That's how we're getting to the golden future, is we need to keep our vibration high. I actually felt no despair over this, and it's not that I don't care. It's a totally different feeling. Of course I care. Of course I care if other human beings are being hurt, and of course I care if he's manipulating. But I am in such a different place after all the spiritual work, knowing and trusting. I'm just really trusting that divine energy is moving the way it needs to, and that love will ultimately win. Love will ultimately win. So the next time they said losing his mind, I said, why are you telling us this again? They said, keep calm. That was on the 12th of June. Okay. And then on the 15th, that was last week, they did say Trump is leaving permanently. Yes. Unalived, no. And they said July 2025. The card we pulled was Archangel Michael, which is amazing because for protection. It was a move to the next level. Complete clarity and freedom were the messages we got, the political messages we got. Okay. So today, being the 22nd, that is the first message. I said, what do you got? What do you have for us today regarding the situation? And they said, once again, losing his mind. So I think we have to believe that at this point. Okay. And then I asked, what's the ultimate purpose? And look what they put. King for a day. The ultimate purpose, king for a day. So, little Trumpy, because his inner child has never been healed. His inner child has never been healed. What you are witnessing is a 2 to 5 year old, maybe up to 10, I don't know. People who understand child development, you would know more than me. That is how he's acting. He has never dealt with his inner child. He has never comforted his inner child. He was raised horribly. He was raised horribly. And in fact, the conversation with Mary and E. Jean Carroll talked about that. They talked about that for a split second. I read Mary's first book, that's why I know. And Mary's second book came out, and I'm definitely going to get it. So, because it's just widening your perspective, okay? But his inner child has never been dealt with. And unfortunately, his dad basically taught him how to behave what he's doing now. I mean, that's just how, and who knew that so many people would get suckered into it, So he needed to be king for a day. King for a day. Okay, that's interesting. So then they spelled out for me. I kept asking, like, well, what more? Tell me more about what's going on, especially from a spiritual perspective. They spelled out for me, and if you're wondering what I mean by that, so they spelled this out using a pendulum. Okay, so they spell words out for me when I talk to them. And again, this comes from all of our spirit guides. They spelled out karmic balancing. Karmic balancing. If you read The Golden Future, I do have it linked in the description below. If you read that, you'll understand karmic balancing more, or just listen to that podcast that I referred to earlier. Okay. Then I asked a more spiritual perspective, and they said calm. Okay. They want us to remain calm. Okay. And then the last message, I said, anything else? Anything else you want to tell us? They said yes. I used the dowsing rods. They said yes. And they said, just love each other. So that's cool. Just love each other. Okay. So, mwah. Let's give each other hugs right now. Come on. Give me a hug. I'm giving you a hug. Okay. Just love each other. Okay. All right. Let's see what they have for us. So hopefully this just, talking to you about it, just talking through, listening to other people just really helps me more and more stay calm. Talking to the SGs helps me stay calm. And that's the state we need to be in, because there's a lot of people in fear. There's a lot of people in fear, and we need to help balance that out, because we don't want to, the energy of fear is not good. Not good energy. Okay. So that was a card that popped. Let's just see. All right. I close my aura to all but my higher self, the God consciousness, my guides, guardians, and the lead team collective, and only those of the highest and purest light. These cards are very slippery. And I ask Archangel Michael to please protect my channel, your channel, our community, the lead team collective, so it is only of the highest and purest light. Amen. Okay, so you guys said you had a message. I'm talking to the lead team collective, please. You said you had a message for us today with the Enchanted Path Oracle. Oh, I wonder if it's the one that already popped. But it is very, very slippery deck. So it's interesting. You don't realize when you make an Oracle deck probably how important the paper you're using is, or the cardstock. There's a fine balance between you want it slippery, but you don't want it too slippery. I wonder how much time people think about that. Okay, let me just see if the one that I pulled already. Hey, you guys. Good morning, and thank you very, very much for all your love and support and all your messages for the community. We really, really appreciate it. Now's a good time, you guys, to say thanks to your team and the lead team collective, so that, the more we appreciate the work with them, the more I think, well, it's just a good thing to do. Okay, so is the card in front of me the one you wanted me to read? Yes? Okay, is there another one you want me to pull? No. Okay, because that one popped right away. So, all right. So, all right. Believe. Have faith in your power to create your reality. Is your reality right now in Iran? Is your reality right now in the White House? No. Is your reality in Israel? No. Maybe it is. I shouldn't say no, but mine is not. Okay. So have faith in your power to create your reality. Okay. So a lot of people here want to move towards the 5D. Even, again, I don't know. I don't have any 100% proof that that's what's going to happen, but you know what? I am so much happier believing that, to be honest. So believe. That's funny. Believe. Okay. So just believe what makes you happy. What kind of reality do you want? Believe in love wins. Believe in peace. Believe that if you want, what do you believe? Do you believe that there is karmic balancing going on and that these things are happening for a reason, right? Again, doesn't mean we don't stand up and shout and work, and work towards change. But where do you want your energy field to be? Do you want your energy field to be sending out love? Or do you want your energy field to be sending out anger, fear, despair, hate? I was there. After the election for months. You guys know, if you've been with me since the election, we were all dealing with that. If you're still there, then we just, keep plugging away. Hopefully you're still moving on the 30-day challenge, right? So 30-day journaling challenge, working with your team. I can't wait to hear. You guys will hear from me. I'm going to be sending out a newsletter this week. I'm going to write it tomorrow on Monday. So, okay. I won't be sending it out on Monday. I don't know. Probably on Wednesday. So, okay. Well, I hope this was helpful. Lots of different things to listen to if you're interested in. If you liked this content and you want to be a part of our community, it would be amazing if you subscribed. Give the video a thumbs up if you felt it was helpful, because it will help other people find it and support our channel. And if you want to join the Spirit Circle, there's a link in the description below as well. So, okay, have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.